Hello everyone, wow, here we go again. It's time to bring you another winter update from GavsWeatherVids. This is the 7th winter 2022-2023 update from GavsWeatherVids. We are virtually at the halfway point now of our winter updates. Wow. We started these winter updates at the beginning of September. We're running them right way through to the end of November, and then on Sunday, the 4th of December, we will be releasing our winter forecast. So we're not at the business end of the updates yet, but we are, in the real thick of it now, halfway through. And it's going to be great. It's going to be epic. I'm going to get on the 7th winter update. Now, I cannot wait to bring this update to you. It's going to be great. I can feel it in my waters. I can feel it in my bones. So I'm going to bring it to you in a second. I want to say thank you so much to Richard for the gift, and also to Roger the Robin, or Roger the Dick. Thank you so much to Richard, and also to Robin for the gift. Thank you so much to my good friend Richard Short, King of Swing. You'll see the Swingo in a moment. And thank you so much to Shryan as well. Shryan's on holiday at the moment, but the Ace Master has been able to update our Ace page for us. So thank you so much to Shryan. Emo's on holiday. So that's, that's service to Gav, isn't it? Thank you so much to Shryan. And thank you so much to Richard. Thank you to all of you for tuning in to this epic 7th winter 2022-2023 update. Now, it's going to be a long video, but it's going to be breaks along the way. I'm going to try to get it all in within 45 minutes, so we'll see how we get on, shall we? Well, the first thing we're going to show you is the swingometer. So you are now going to see how the swingo is looking after 6 updates. This is up to the end of last week's 6th winter update. It doesn't take into account the 7th update. You'll see how the 7th update has affected the swingometer at the beginning of next week's 8th update. So here we go then. Let's count it down, shall we? Do a countdown. 3, 2, 1. Here it is. And our swingometer is suggesting that there has been a swing from mild to cold. We are still favouring a milder than average winter with our winter updates by 52%. But that is a significant swing on the week before. And we are now seeing that, yes, we're still just about favouring mild and average winter, but a significant swing from mild to cold with our winter updates after 6 updates. That's how the swingometer is looking. And thank you so much to our King of Swing, Richard Short, for sending us that through. Thank you so much, Richard, and Darth, of course, as well. Wow. You will find out how this 7th update moves the swingometer. If it does, it may not move, it may stay where it is, but you'll find out next week how this 7th update affects the swingometer then. Right, what a way to start this 7th update. Let's crack on there. Going to begin with analogues. So this is from the UK Met Office. This is showing the temperature anomaly across the country during the month of September, set against the 91 to 20 average. You can see that it was a slightly mild average month for northern parts of the country and near normal temperatures in more southern areas. We had a very, very warm start to the month of September. First week was exceptionally warm, and then the second half of the month saw a rapid cool down. Actually, the second half of September was the coldest second half of September since 2012, can you believe? Very long time ago. And so for our analogues this week, we're going to be looking at winters following very cool second half to September's, with a CET in those second halves of 11 degrees to 12.5 degrees. That does exclude 2 years, which is 1952 and 1974. They are excluded from this analogue set. purely because they are too cold. They had CETs in the second half of 10.0 and 10.1 respectively, so they are taken out. And the central temperature in the second half of September 2022, by the way, was 12 degrees, so places it nicely in the middle, really, of this set. Right, okay, we're going to begin with 1950. So September 1950 had a very cool second half to the month. The winter of 1950-1951 was a cold and wet winter. Very cold December in 1950, in some ways similar to December 1981. That's not quite so severe, but certainly quite a snow in December 1950. The rest of winter was relatively mild, but also really wet too. The next year with a very cool second half to September was 1954. The winter of 1954-1955 was a cold winter with high pressure over Greenland and low pressure over northern and western Europe, and down comes those east to northeast winds. Thank you so much to Shrine, by the way, for getting these years together for us. December 1954 was relatively mild, but January and February 1955 were cold months. The next year is 1957. The winter of 1957-1958 has high pressure in the middle of the Atlantic, low pressure over to the east of the country, favouring northerly winds. Actually a very mild first half to this winter, and then gets colder later on. Has a really cold February into March in 1958. Next up, we've got 1960. 1961. So this one is just a rather mild and wet winter, but I think it does have a coldish December, and around Christmas of 1960, I think it gets quite cold. And then what comes next? Let's have a look then, shall we? Wow, 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 wow! It's the daddy of cold winters! Ooh. I am your father. Oh, wow, 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 wow. It's a daddy of cold winters for the first time this season. It's 62, 63 with the high pressure blocking around Greenland and Iceland, and all of that low pressure going to the south. Winds are in from the east. It's the coldest winter since 1740. And it's the daddy of cold winters. Wow, wow, wow. That's the first time we've seen it in this season of updates. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. The daddy of cold winters following a cool second half to September. Right, let's continue then. So, good fish, isn't it? Good fish. Next up, we've got 1967. This one with high pressure in the Atlantic, low pressure way to the east, and winds coming in from like a northwesterly direction. It's actually one of the milder winters of the 1960s, that one. We've got 1972, 1973. This is a mild and relatively dry winter with high pressure just to our east. Then we've got 73, 74. So there's a run of cool second half to September's in the early 70s with 72, 73 and 74 included. Of course, we haven't got 74 in this package of analogues because it's too cold. It's too cold to make the cut. The winter of 73, 74 is a mild and wet winter with lots of low pressure in off the Atlantic Ocean. And then we've got 77, 78. So this is a bit of a teaser winter. Higher pressure within high latitudes, lower pressure to the south, jet stream push down there, winds in from the east. This has a mild start to winter, and then it gets colder later, especially February 1978 is cold. We've got 7980 showing up next. This is a rather mild and wet winter, but I think it does have a cold interval in January. 8485 is a genuinely cold winter, following a cool second half to September with high pressure blocking within high latitudes, winds are coming in from the east with that one. Again, relatively mild in December of 1984 until the new year, and then it all flips around. January, very, very cold and snowy month, and February, quite cold as well, on and off with snow at times. We've got 86, 87 showing up. This is another pretty cold winter. This is a bad package of analogues, I don't think, if you want a colder winter. High pressure within the northern latitudes, winds coming in from the east, has a severe cold freeze-up in January of 1987, although it does have a very mild December, and then February, again, a little bit on-off with the cold, but the peak of that winter is particularly January. 87, 88 is a much milder and wetter winter with low pressure in from off the Atlantic, winter coming in from a southwest direction. And then we've got 88, 89, which is also another mild winter. This one's rather drier. High pressure sitting around Western Europe. Lower pressure is up here. That's a very mild winter at the end of the 1980s. We've got 1990, 1991, which isn't too bad at all. If you want cold weather, has high pressure Scandinavia, low pressure to the south, and winds are coming in from the east with that one. Remember, that's very cold in February. Otherwise, it's not that cold. Just have a snowstorm in the Midlands in December of 1990, but the cold, really, with that is later on in the winter. We've got 93, 94. That's a rather mild Atlantic-driven winter, but it does have some cold intervals, especially around Christmas and again in February. We've got 94, 95, which is a very mild and wet winter. Some snow in northern parts of the country in January, but basically that's a very mild winter for 94, 95. We've got 2007, 2008 there with high pressure over much of Europe. Low pressure is away to our northwest. Jet streams pushed away to the north as well. That one also following a cool second half to September. And then we have got 2012, 2013. This is another pretty cold winter, especially later on, with higher pressure within the high latitudes there. Low pressure is to our south and east, and winds are coming in from an easterly direction with that one. Remember, that gets cold later, so especially starts in January, where we have a cold couple of weeks with some snow, and then on-off through February, and then it really locks in March. You have a severely cold March, our coldest March since 1881, I think. And then we've got 2015, 2016 showing up next. So that one with high pressure to the south, low pressure is away to the north, and winter coming in from west or southwesterly direction. That's an exceptionally mild winter in 2015, 16. Right, let's put all that together then. So this now all Decembers combined are looking following very cool second halves to Septembers. Generally wet and Atlantic driven, and quite mild really with most of these Decembers. Mild years to deviate, exceptions to the rule, such as December 1950, that one there, for example. But overall, in the package, it's a rather milder signal. We've got all January's combined, looking like this, following very cool second half to September. Notice the blocking signal appears around Greenland, lower pressure is to our south, wind potentially coming in from the east, especially for northern areas. But blocking is a relatively weak signal though, so it's not guaranteed that this would get cold by any means. And then we've got all February's combined, which are looking like that. Again, some higher pressure within the northern latitudes, lower pressure is down there somewhere. And then finally all winters combined, following a very cool second half to September. It looks very unsettled signal, with lots of low pressure over top that becomes entry. I'm not sure how seriously we can take those all years combined charts, though. I think got very contrasting winters here. So some winters will be mild, definitely, but such as 89, for example. But nevertheless, I think that analogues package does raise the prospect that following very, very cool ends to September's, we might, increase the risk of high latitude blocking and get a better chance of a colder winter. I don't think it's a bad analogues package that for cold is. Right, anyway, that's it for our set of analogues. That's it for September data now. So we're done with the September data for our winter update. So I'm going to pause the video there. When we come back, we're going to return with QBO and also stratosphere data. Got a lot to show you on that. So I'll pause the video there and I'll see you in 2 seconds. See you in a moment. Okay, we're back. And we're ready to resume a 7th Winter 2022-2023 update from GavsWeatherVids. What a start, but we've still got so much more to show you. So I won't talk about anything else, and we'll just do it. But I will say thank you so much to Richard for our gift, of course. Right, quasi-Siberian oscillation. This is from NASA. So with this, what you have to think is that these are the levels of the atmosphere just here. This is 10 HPA at the top of the atmosphere in the stratosphere. That 30 to 50 HPA is the boundary level of the atmosphere that we call the troposphere. The sandy brown area is the westerly QBO phase, and the blue-green area is the easterly QBO phase. You can see that westerly QBO is descending from the troposphere into the stratosphere. This is going to be a westerly QBO winter, and this is confirmed, that we have got westerly QBO into the boundary level of the atmosphere that we call the troposphere. And so there it is, westerly QBO is continuing to descend. Arctic oscillation observed and forecast chart is looking like this, with black line shows where we've been with the AO, red lines have the airwave GFS ensembles for forecasting the Arctic oscillation to go. Earlier in October, the Arctic oscillation was very positive. Now we're around neutral to weakly negative. The GFS ensembles over the next week are turning the AO weakly negative as well, and then lifting it back up towards neutral. No sign of a return back to strong positivity of the Arctic oscillation that we had back earlier in October, though. So neutral or weakly negative with the AO looks like that's the way forward. Remember, it's just an index that's reflecting the atmospheric state. When we've got low pressure over the Arctic and North Pole, the AO will be positive. When we've got high pressure blocking over the North Pole and the Arctic, then the AO will be negative. NAO observed in forecast looks like that. Again, the black line shows where we've been with the NAO, red lines at the end, the GFS ensembles are forecasting NAO to go. At the moment, we're very negative with the North Atlantic oscillation, and forecast to go even more negative over the next few days before we see a return towards the end of October back closer to neutral, but still neutral to weakly negative. It does look as though we've entered into a long-term negative NAO phase, actually, doesn't it? Or certainly NAO phase. We were strongly negative with the NAO back in the early part of September. We're strongly negative again mid-October with the NAO. So it looks like we're in a neutral to negative phase for the North Atlantic oscillation at the moment, which tells us that westerlies are likely to be not only reduced, but also potentially on a more southerly track than normal, which if that carries on into winter, it might not do, but if it did, that would enhance the chance, potentially, of something a little bit colder being allowed to get pushed into northern areas, probably. This is how things look in terms of stratospheric temperatures at 10 HPA over the Arctic and over the North Pole. So we've got those blue curves. These are the cold temperatures at 10 HPA over the North Pole. That is the polar vortex at its roots, essentially. So as we run through over the next few days, this latest GFS forecast from Meteosat, as we run through the next few days, you can see that it does hold quite steady. It's not getting particularly much colder from where we're starting off at there to where we are at 192 hours, which is just over a week's time. Those blue colours continue to be anchored and rooted over the Arctic and over the North Pole. Temperature somewhere around minus 68. That's about where we're starting off at. Maybe a slight reduction, but nothing overly dramatic going on with those temperatures at 10 HPA. And then into the extended range with the GFS model. Again, we see that being a bit colder then, go down to around minus 72. So you expect this, of course. We're going further and further on towards the winter, so temperatures are going to get colder and colder and colder over the North Pole, both at the surface and also in the stratosphere. So the polar vortex intensifying there at its roots, strengthening with those temperatures becoming ever colder. No sign up to that point, which gets us to the 31st of October, of any particular warming of the stratosphere taking place. It all looks very standard, really, I have to say. All looks very standard. This is the latest forecast from ECMWF for the zonal mean, zonal wind over the next 6 weeks. It just gets us to the end of November. So this thick red line here, that is like the trend line, and the dark blue line is like the ensemble mean. You can see we're pretty close to trend at the moment with the strength of zonal winds. Zonal winds is a way of depicting how strong the polar vortex is, basically. Pretty close to that. Close to trend, close to where we would be or would expect to be at this time of the year. And it basically stays there, really, quite close to trend right the way through November. It's got a bit of scatter within that. We have got some ensemble members here, but to go for a reversal of zonal winds, or a near reversal of zonal winds, but of course they're outliers, and these ones up here really powering up the zonal wind. But essentially, it looks like the zonal wind is going to be reasonably close to average over the next few weeks, not really deviating too far from what you'd expect. Now, we've got some long-range forecasts to show you in terms of the zonal wind prediction. This is from Copernicus, starting off with the ECMWF seasonal model. We've got the dates along the bottom of the chart here in monthly periods. So this was generated at the start of October, so there's that little dip down in the strength of zonal wind that we had earlier on in October. Now back to trend, of course. We generally keep quite close to trend by the look of it. The ECMWF forecast is correct through November, but you'll notice how this thicker blue and sort of red-orange line start to deviate from the black line. That's the trend. That's the that's the average for this time of the year. Notice how the blue and orange lines begin to pull away from that black line, go underneath it. That tells us that as we go through December into January, the ECMWF seasonal model is forecasting that zonal winds will be weaker than average through that December and January period before picking up back to trend, maybe go a little bit stronger than average in the latter part of the winter through February and into March. A weakening of zonal winds in the earlier part of winter might be associated with an early winter southern stratospheric warming. It might just be associated with a general weakening, of zonal winds. But it is interesting that the ECMWF forecast there is for the zonal wind, the polar vortex, therefore, to be weaker than average. We have got some other models that we can show you for this as well. So this one is DWD. This is the German model. And again, you see a very similar scenario. The black line is a trend line. The blue and orange lines are, the orange line is like the model climate mean, and the blue line, thick blue line, is the forecast ensemble mean. Notice again as we go through, particularly, it starts in November actually, but particularly from December into January, we find those two lines deviating away from trend, and in fact most of the ensemble plume members with this DWD model are underneath the black line. There's very few that are above the black line there, above trend. Until, again, later on in winter, February, March, and then we start to see all the lines converging. We might even go a little bit stronger with the zonal wind towards the end of the winter. Meteo France looks like this, very similar, maybe not quite as dramatic, but notice that the model climate mean and the forecast ensemble mean, the orange and blue lines, are a little bit underneath that black line. Less obvious with that one though. And then the UK Met Office looks like that. Again, that's another model that is going for weaker than average zonal winds, weaker than normal zonal winds from November through December into January. Later on in the winter, as we get in towards February and March, then we see the zonal wind actually perhaps going a little bit stronger than average. And finally, we've got the JMA, the Japanese Meteorological Agency model, and that one also is going for weaker than average zonal winds in terms of the forecast on summer mean anyway, this thick blue line just here, see that is significantly underneath the trend line. So a lot of those models are going for weaker than normal zonal winds. Some of that, as I say, could be down to an increased chance of a sun traffic. Well, it might just be that there's a decoupling from the stratosphere to the troposphere, and that's producing like a general weakening of zonal winds. But certainly something seems to be going on there within those models, doesn't it? Quite interesting. We'll bring you the next update next month, of course, of those models, see what they're forecasting for the zonal wind and the strength of the polar vortex, of course, when they update at Copernicus next month. So activity next, this is how the solar disk is looking on our side of the disk today from soham.net. So we've got a couple of sunspot regions, not many of them. So activity is at low levels and is expected to remain at low levels. Who am I today? Wow, 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 wow. Gav's turn to the dark side. Gav's turn to the dark side. Thank you so much, Richard, for sending mystery. This is the current Spotless days and also the current spotless stretch for sunspots. So for 2022 so far, we've had 1 day without sunspots. 1 day this year, that is less than 1% of the year. That's comparable to 2022. It had 64 days without sunspots. That was 18% of the year. Our comparable year from solar cycle 24, the last solar cycle, was 2011. That year had 2 days without sunspots, and again, that was less than 1% of the year. Thank you so much to Richard. So that in a couple of weeks' time, we're going to do our solar special. I think that will be in the 9th update. We'll bring you all of the updated trackers, and we'll bring you all of the updated analogues as well for this period of the solar cycle. That'll be coming up for update number 9. No tracker this week. Shrine's had a holiday, but we'll have all of the trackers back for you for the solar special, of course, in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you so much to Richard for the data, and also for turning me into Anakin. Goodness gracious me. I don't know, do you? Right, we're cooking with gas. We're going to pause there. When we come back, we're going to go through all of the Eurasian snow cover data that we've got to show you all the way back to 1966. It's going to be epic. I shall see you in 2 seconds for that. See you soon. Okay, we're back and we're ready to resume the 7th Winter 2022-2023 update from GavsWeatherVids. It's been epic so far. We've still got so much more to show you. And now we're going to bring you the Eurasian snow cover section of this update. Thank you so much to Richard for the winter updates gift there. Thanks so much, Rich. Right, okay, let's have a look then. This is how solar activity was looking when we did last week. Not solar activity, what I'm talking about. This is how Eurasian snow cover was looking when we did last week's 6th winter update. So we've made more gains across eastern parts of Siberia, and that of course is how things were looking last week. Right, so compare that to the latest. This is it as of 14th excuse me, as of the 14th of October. We're looking like that. So what do we think? I reckon we filled a little bit in, but I reckon overall we might actually have lost a little bit of snow over the past week. I think we've seen the snow line retreat back ever so slightly. Not much in it, because we have filled in some of these green patches here. So averaging it out, we're probably not that much different from where it was last week in terms of total snow coverage. But I think we have pulled the snow line back a little bit. So we might actually have lost a little bit of snow. We certainly stalled it. You know, we had very, very rapid gains through the early part of the autumn, back in September. Had very rapid gains. We've gone into October. We have definitely stalled the gains over the past week or two. Anyway, back to the latest event. So let's see how we compare at this point in the year to previous years. So here we go. That's 2021, and we are behind 2021 for Eurasian snow cover now. That is 2020. What do you think to that? Well, I think we're a little bit behind 2020. That's 2019. We are behind 2019 for Siberian snow cover and also for Scandinavian snow cover as well. That is 2018. I think we're behind 2018 overall, although the areas covered are slightly different, you know, in 2018 to this year, but I think we're behind 2018. That is 2017. What do you think about that? Well, I think we're behind 2017 now, although in terms of total snow coverage, there might not be all that much in it, because I've got a little more this year, a little bit further south, but I think we're behind 2017. That's 2016, we're behind 2016 now for snow cover. That is 2015. We are well behind 2015 for total Eurasian snow cover at this point. That's 2014. We are also well behind 2014. That is 2012. Though it looks like we're missing 2011 there. Don't know what's happened to that. That's 2012. What do you think about that year? We're probably quite close to 2012 in terms of total snow coverage, but the snow line is a little bit further westwards actually in 2012. That is 2011. What do you think about 2011? So I reckon we're probably a little bit ahead of 2011 actually. That was a very slow start. 2010 looks like that. What do you think about 2010? I think we're a little bit behind 2010 at this point. That's 2009. We're probably ahead of 2009 in terms of total snow coverage, but the areas that are covered are very different, and look at Scandinavia. 2009 is a very, very unique year. Scandinavia was already half covered with snow at this point in the middle of October, and we even got a little bit down into some parts of Poland there, by the look of it as well. So very, very different year in 2009 to any other year. So I think probably a bit ahead of 2009 in terms of total snow coverage, but we're behind particularly for Scandinavian snow cover. That is 2008. What do you think about that year? Probably a little bit behind 2008. That's 2007. We might be quite close to 2007. That could be one of the close years. Let me know in the comments which years you think we're closest to. We are actually behind 2006 quite clearly. That is 2005. Again, probably quite close to that year. 2005, 2007, probably the closest. 2004, we're behind 2004 at this point. 2003. I think we're a little bit ahead of 2003. That's one of the few years we're ahead of. 2002, we are way behind 2002. Now, that is 2001. We're behind that year as well. I think that's 2000. Might be quite close to that year, or even a little bit ahead of there. So 2007, 2005, 2000. That's 1999. We're behind 1999, and we're also behind 1998 as well. We won't do any more comparisons because it will take too much time, but just keep that in mind and sort of flip it around, you know, turn it on its head a little bit. Keep that in mind, and we'll go right way back to 1966 with the charts of Rutger Stovelab. So this is 1997. I think we're probably quite close to that year, actually. That's 1996. What do you think about that year? Again, probably a little bit behind that year. We're definitely behind 1995, where we got these orange ones, of course. That's a snow cover. Definitely behind 1995. We may be a little bit ahead of 1994. 1993 looks quite close. 1992, we're probably a little bit ahead of that, but notice the area is covered much more in northern parts of Russia in 1992. That's 1991. I think we're a little bit ahead of that year. That's 1990. We're a little bit behind that one. 1989, I think we're a little bit behind. 1988, we're well ahead of. Barely any snow cover, even at this point in the middle of October in 1988. 1987, again, we're ahead of that year. 1986, probably quite close to that, maybe a little bit behind it. 1985, probably a little bit ahead of that one. 1984, we're behind that year. 1983, we're also behind that year. 1982, areas covered are very different, but I think in totality, we're behind. 1981 might be quite close to this year. 1980, we could be quite close to that one as well. 1979, probably a little bit behind that one. 1978, probably a bit ahead of that, but the areas covered are a bit different in that year. That's one of the more unusual years for areas covered. We're well behind 1977. We're well behind 1976. We're probably quite close to 75 in totality. 1974, I think we're a bit behind that year. 1973, probably behind that one. Again, it's all subjective, really. 1972, areas covered are very different. We're probably a bit behind in totality, though. We're behind 1971. We're well behind 1970. Look at how much of Russia was covered with snow at this point in October 1970. Gosh, no data for 1969. 1968, I think we're behind that year, particularly so for Scandinavian snow cover. Notice again, similar to 2009, we have an early build-up of snow cover there in October, for Scandinavia in October 1968. 1967, we're probably a little bit behind as well, and we're well behind 1966 also. So, after a good start to the Eurasian snow cover season, we're not doing great now. We have pulled behind a lot of years there. There are still one or two, but we're ahead of, but not many. Generally, snow cover has stalled a lot over the past week. We'll have another look, of course, next week at that. One final pause, and when we return, we're going to have a look at oceans data, and we'll bring you something from the UK Met seasonal model as well, which we wouldn't normally include in a winter update. That would normally be for seasonal model roundups, but I want to finish with something from the UK Met seasonal model. But I'll pause the video one last time, and I'll see you back in 2 seconds' time. See you in a moment. Okay, we're back and we're ready to conclude. Wow, the 7th Winter 2021-2022 update. What an update it's been so far. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. We've still got so much more to show you, though, and we're going to bring you oceans data next. So this is how the oceans were looking when we did last week's 6th winter update. 4 areas of interest. ENSO region just here, Indian Ocean over there, Northern Pacific over here, and North Atlantic over there. That's how the oceans looked last week. This is the latest, dealing with the ENSO region. First of all, again, very little change with La Nina. I think over the past week, all areas of the actual Pacific Ocean are representative of La Nina, with those blue curves stretched out from Peru to Indonesia over here. So the La Nina signal continues, definitely, but I'm not sure it's strengthened all that much over the past week, so looking relatively stable there. Up in the Northern Pacific, again, that's how things looking in the Northern and Northeastern Pacific last week. This is the latest. Again, very little change there. It remains significantly warmer than normal in this northeastern portion of the Pacific Ocean. That's cooled down in the far north, maybe, and a little bit through that central part of the Northern Pacific as well, but not that much change. And then over in the Indian Ocean, that remains very similar. Cooler sea surface temperature is here, warmer sea surface temperature is there. That is the signature of the negative IOD, negative Indian Ocean dipole, but we currently have strongly negative IOD, and we're expecting that to last at least into the beginning of the winter. In the North Atlantic, again, that's how the North Atlantic was looking last week. This is the latest, so not much change there either, really, is there? Just generally warmer than average sea surface temperature, anomalies in most areas. This area might be cooling a little bit, and then it gets warmer as we go down there. So not that far away from a tripod, but still not quite right for it. To get a tripod, we need to see things getting colder through there. Let's get rid of those lines. To get a tripod, we need to see things getting colder through here, really, and the warm being pushed up towards Greenland, and then keep things pretty warm there, and then that will give us, a tripod. We don't have a tripod, we just have a generally warm North Atlantic, which is something we've seen a lot of over the past several years. Next week, we'll probably go back through the charts again and see how the Atlantic is looking you know, at this midpoint of the autumn compared to past years. We'll probably do that for you in next week's 8th update. In terms of the total overall change for the oceans, it looks like this. Not much change going on in the Pacific Ocean, or certainly in the equatorial Pacific Ocean. It's generally cooling up in the northern Pacific Ocean, though, up here. That northwestern corner of the Pacific Ocean is generally cooling up there, but in the northeastern corner it's still warming a little bit through there. Again, not much going on in the Indian Ocean. It's cooled a little bit there, it's warmed a little bit there. That's negative IOD coming into effect, of course. And then in the North Atlantic, so it has cooled a little bit to the south of Greenland, actually, but the anomalies are still well above average. And most other areas over the past 7 days have seen slight warming continuing to take place. So the warm North Atlantic is not done yet. CFS-V2 is forecasting that ENSO will continue to remain at weak to borderline moderate levels. We can see that just there, dates on the bottom of the charts, of course. So weak to borderline moderate La Nina will go on. And the Southern Oscillation Index is looking like this. The SOI, of course, just an index that's reflecting that certain state. When it's positive, it's reflecting La Nina. When it's negative, it's reflecting El Nino. Measuring air pressures between Tahiti and Darwin in these two columns here. These are the daily returns overall. You see, all very positive. Plus 24, plus 23, plus 22, plus 21, plus 13, plus 17, plus 24, plus 18, plus 20, plus 25, plus 37, plus 22. On and on it goes. Actually, still well and truly coupled with the ocean, therefore, in reflecting La Nina, and the red line, the 30-day average here, you know, that remains in very positive territory indeed. So La Nina condition in atmosphere continues along with La Nina condition in the ocean. Connected to the oceans, of course, in the 2022 Atlantic hurricane season. These are the latest scores from the doors from the 2022 Atlantic hurricane season page at Wikipedia. And so overall, so far, we've had 13 total tropical storms. We've had, total pressure, I should say, 11 storms, 5 hurricanes, and 2 major category 3 or above hurricanes. How does that deal with ACE? So this is the ACE page updated by our ACE Master Shrine, who got this updated for us, even though he was on holiday. Thank you so much, Shrine, for doing that. ACE, of course, is just a way of indicating how much energy all of these storms are giving out on a season-by-season basis. Classified as below normal, near normal, above average, hyperactive. Coming down to the latest year, we can see that for 2020 so far, our ACE number is standing at 84.10, 84.10. You would expect at this point to be at 106.50, so still quite significantly below par, really. That is after 11 tropical storms, 5 hurricanes, and 2 major category 3 or above hurricanes. You'd have expected to have had 12 storms, 6 hurricanes, and 3 majors. So still running a little bit below par for this season. Thank you so much to our ACE Master Shrine for updating that. Last thing I want to leave you with is the UK Met seasonal model. So this was a real turn-up for the box when updated a few days ago. This is the mean sea level pressure anomaly from GWV 5 for November, December, January, the early part of winter, and going for strong blocking signals around Greenland and trough low pressure over the UK and Western Europe, which you would think would be a cold signal. I looked at this in a live stream on Wednesday, and I said that it's a long time since I've seen that much blocking within a winter forecast for the UK Met season model. So I thought we'd end this video just going back, because we're going to go back a long way, we'd end this video going back through the archives and just seeing how unusual that is. So the first month we're going to go back to is October 2021. That's how October 2021 looks. Obviously nowhere near the level of blocking that we're predicting, or they are predicting at the moment. Let's go back to October 2020. Again, no particular northern blocking at all for November, December, January from the October 2020 forecast. For November, December, January 2020, 2021 just looks anti-cyclonic with high pressure dominating across much of Europe. What about 2019? Let's go back to that year. Wow, look at that. Very much indicating the polar vortex of doom already as of October 2019, with all of those deep blue colours. Gosh, in the high latitudes, the warning signs were there for the PV of doom from GWV in October 2019. What about October 2018? Let's have a look at that one. Again, no sign of northern blocking for early winter 2018-2019. What about 2017, which was a slightly colder winter? Let's have a look at October 2017. Again, no sign whatsoever of any sort of northern blocking for November, December, January 2017-2018. Let's go further back than that, though, 2016. That one did show a little bit of blocking for early winter 2016-17. Did show some high latitude blocking. But notice also pretty high pressure across much of Europe. So although there was a bit of blocking signal there, not clear cut to get cold because of the high pressure that we see over continental Europe. Let's go further back than that, though, 2000. And by the way, that's nowhere near the level of blocking that Molly's forecasting for this month, you know, for the coming winter. Let's go back to October 2015. That's how just November, December, January looks for October 2015. Again, no sign of northern blocking. Deep blue colours there within high latitudes. What about October 2014? Let's try that one. So we can go back to October 2014. There it is. Again, for 2014-15, November, December, January, no sign of any northern blocking. See how unusual this forecast is that we've had from GWV this month. What about October 2013? Again, looking very, very zonal there. 2014-15, November, December, January. What about October 2012? Let's go back to that one, shall we? Now, that one's a little bit more interesting for November, December, January, because that's our last properly cold winter, and that does show a cold setup, actually, with high pressure around Greenland, Iceland, low pressure to our south, and winds coming in with that from an easterly direction. So that's our last cold winter, and GWV was beginning to pick up on that by October 2012. What about October 2011? Let's have a look at that. Well, we need done with this video. It's been absolutely epic. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into this epic 7th winter update. That's October 2011. Strange anomaly. Not really northern blocking, but a mid-Atlantic ridge type thing. Not sure about that one. I think it was wrong with that idea. I think it was more zonal than that. This is October 2010, and this is the last year that we can bring you and look at that. October 2010, yes, the model was picking up on extensive high latitude blocking around Iceland and low pressure down here. And so we know that at this point, actually in October 2010, the UK Met was already warning the government about the potential for a very cold temp. We can show you one more year, which is October 2009. So that's how the UK Met Office product was forecasting winter 2009-10 in October 2009. Sort of getting close to it, wasn't it? High pressure again within the high latitudes. That's November, December, January, of course, and it did actually strengthen that northern blocking signal for December, January, February. So it's getting close. It's getting close. And by the time we've had a cold winter, it looks like by October, GWV was beginning to pick up on the signal a little bit, coming back to present. So, again, that's the anomaly that we're looking at for early winter. I reckon the GWV could be picking up on a cold early winter there, I have to say. Let me know in the comments what you think. That's something completely different and new. Never done that before in a winter update. And I hope you enjoyed it. Right, well, what about that then, everyone? What an epic 7th winter update. We're at the halfway point now. It's getting more and more interesting, I think, as we go by, especially with these some of these long-range models with their, forecast of stratospheric polar vortex and overall mean sail pressure anomaly forecast. It's getting more interesting, everyone. Please let me know in the comments what you thought. Thank you so much to Richard and to Shryan for all of the help on this update. Thank you so much, Richard, for the gift. Thank you so much to all of you for tuning in to the 7th Winter Update. We will be discussing this 7th Winter Update on Wednesday, so if you've got any questions about it, let me know in the live stream on Wednesday at 6 p.m. But for this 7th Winter 2022-2023 update, that's all for now. And thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.